a short film together a couple years before about Bird Boy, and it looks very hand-drawn in 2D, kind of old school. It's got a very, very unique art style. The story, which I don't want to get too deep into because it's only a 97-minute movie, but it's a pretty big story. Basically, there's a world in which these talking animals live. They live on an island. A factory is built and explodes and poisons all the water all around, so no one can fish, and there's very little left on the island that isn't poisoned and irradiated. So all of these creatures still live on the island, and where the factory was is now this dumping ground where these mice live. And the main part of the story concerns Bird Boy himself, who is the son of Birdman, who was a person who was a creature that flew around and sort of protected the island. And now he's dead, and Bird Boy has a demon inside of him that he is basically fighting to try to keep from being unleashed. And then in addition to him, there's a cast of 3 or 4 different animal characters that we focus on. They're all basically trying to get together and leave the island, and for a lot of the movie you're hopping back and forth between all these characters, and it's not quite clear how their stories are going to come together. But in the end, basically 3 of the characters get together to try to leave the island, and they get in trouble. They get sold out on their way off the island by the mice who live in the dump, and Bird Boy has to come and protect them and basically unleash the demon inside of him and save them. It's a really strange tonality that the movie has, where they use these very cute characters to sort of explore these pretty horrible things that happen in some pretty horrific situations. So, you know, for instance, there's one character who's a pig, and his grandmother that lives with him is an addict, and sort of the way they show her being an addict is this spider that crawls out of her, that lives inside of her, that yells at him. There's another character who has sort of bad thoughts, and she has to always be listening to these evil thoughts that sort of are personified by 2 little creatures that pop out of her ear. There's a lot of violence and a lot of pretty disturbing gore. So it's like, you know, they clearly are using these little cutesy characters as a way to juxtapose all the horror that this world sort of has. And, you know, the whole story is basically about growing up and accepting sort of who you are, where you come from. And it's obviously got a lot of psychological underpinnings that make sense. It is, if you're not ready for it, it's a little disturbing of a watch. The art style is totally gorgeous. They have these kind of airbrush-looking backgrounds. There's a ton of great chiaroscuro with like very beautiful reds and darks. So, I mean, it's definitely a visual treat, and the characters are super cute, and that maybe makes it even more horrible when bad things happen to them. But it's not for the faint of heart. You know, it may look like, it looks like an art film, it looks like something interesting, but you may think because of the childlike characters that maybe it's a softer story, but it's one of the darkest animated films I think I've ever seen.
Dime, el muñeco del niño Jesús lleva días llorando sangre por ti y no haces más que ignorarla.
It's pretty successful in what it tries to do. It tries to sort of get at deep stuff that we all feel, things like alienation and growing up, not being afraid of letting go of your past, dealing with the things about yourself you don't like, addiction, being raised by abusive parents, like all kinds of things, in a pretty unique way, and in a voice that I don't think I've seen anything like before. So I definitely think if you're a fan of animation, it is absolutely worth checking out. It's got like a 96% score on Rotten Tomatoes, so most people that see it that are interested and drawn to it like it. So I would say for me, this was, I don't know that I'm going to want to watch it a bunch of times because it's kind of a hard watch, but it was really well done, and I was very impressed with the animation, and I definitely am going to be checking for Vasquez and Rivera's next movie or whatever they decide to do. I'm amazed they got the money to make this movie, but good on them. And like I said, I got it on iTunes. You can get it in Spanish or English dub. It's readily available through GKids. Definitely worth checking out. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on the prequel to Birdman, Bird Boy. But if you have suggestions on animated movies you'd like to see me review, hit me up at ClarkNova1, and I will check them out. Thanks. Bird Boy! Final.